she's off. All right, that's fine. All right, good. Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Administration, Finance, Fire Committee agenda, meeting number 6, Monday, June the 17th. Notice to members of the public, we've only got 2 people here, so we haven't got a huge turnout. But anyways, welcome. Councilor Mike Rayner is my name, and I now have to ask members of committee, is there any change in the order of items on this agenda tonight? Seeing none, disclosure? No. I just wish to make an announcement with regards to Councillor Yonker. I spoke to him. He was in Woodstock this afternoon, going to London, and he was hoping to make it on time, but he said he will be here. He just may be a little bit late. So I asked him while he was in Woodstock if he could get me an autograph of Jimi Hendrix or Jim Morrison or Janis Joplin, and he said, "Isn't that the other Woodstock?" So anyways, appointments tonight. Item A, 44-19, Brenda Pickvance. Apparently she has given notice to our clerk indicating that she will not be available tonight. So we move on to the next one. Item A, 45-19, Nicholas Bowden, Biohazardous Sharps Disposal. You have a presentation. You're welcome to come here and give it.
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to start by thanking you all for having me come here. I wanted to speak to you guys today about the importance of the safe disposal of sharps in our community. But first, I wanted to start off with a little story. One day I was at the park with my little foster sister. She's almost 4 years old. She was going up and down the slides, and when she was going up, she fell, and right next to her hand as she fell was an undisposed of needle. It was heartbreaking because she wouldn't have known what happened to her. She wouldn't have understood the consequences of someone's actions. She wouldn't have understood the illnesses that would essentially change her life for the rest of her life. As I asked around, many other concerned residents of West Lincoln have also stated that they have seen needles and other sharps being improperly disposed of around our homes, schools, parks, and libraries. Many municipalities, including West Lincoln, lack the option for residents, guests, and staff to dispose of biohazardous materials safely. As a healthcare professional, I know that sharps can be used by anyone with varying medical conditions, such as allergies, arthritis, cancer, diabetes, hepatitis, HIV, infertility, migraines, and many more. However, we also know that sharps aren't just used for medical conditions. They're also used to inject morphine, heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, and amphetamine into the bloodstream. When sharps are left in unsafe locations, it becomes a public health crisis, and it puts the public at risk of needle stick injury. Needle stick injury can cause bloodborne viruses such as HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, diphtheria, tuberculosis, and many more. According to the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, 69,000 Canadians will get needle stick injury annually. I would like to see West Lincoln take a proactive stance on the issue. If we wait till someone gets pricked, there is a possibility that we will be held reliable for negligence for not having such utilities. As the issue falls under public health, the Niagara region will need to be consulted. There are a few steps that West Lincoln can do, however, to get ahead of this ever-growing problem. There are solutions to this problem, and I came up with a few to give you some options. There's more, but this is just a short list. We can create a bylaw that makes it illegal to dispose of sharps in the garbage, recycling, or in any public space besides using a safe disposal site. We can launch a research project to understand where the safe disposal sites will be best utilized and to create an evidence-based business case. We can create incentives to have local pharmacies, medical centers, participate in a Take It Back program where needles can be disposed of safely. We can partner with local pharmacies to provide temporary solutions until permanent ones can take place. All pharmacies offer large, hard plastic containers that are free to anyone to use. We can provide needle pickup and disposal training to staff and residents. We can create a safe disposal program to help with community partners. And we can lobby for a permanent solution from the regional government in a timely manner. These options will benefit our community in so many ways. Firstly, it would create a safer community, something that we all lobbied for in the election. Secondly, when the needles are disposed of in a safe place, the risk for bloodborne diseases will be reduced. And thirdly, when we dispose of these needles in a safe location, we are able to increase communications with hard-to-reach populations. One of the concerns I've heard from residents of West Lincoln is if the disposal sites will be used. However, it is a proven fact that when these types of services are offered, they are used. The number of needles found in public spaces drastically reduce. For example, the city of Ottawa, much bigger than we are, but it's still a problem they had. They saw a 108% increase in use of the safe disposal sites when they implemented a disposal program. When we provide opportunities to inform the public and take a proactive stance on the issue, we can save the township money, time, and resources while drastically reducing the number of sharps found in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Bowden, for your presentation. And it is, it's disappointing in the sense that, I think we pride ourselves on having a community that we think is wholesome and safe, immune to some of those big city, inner city problems. The reality is it's not. So I thank you for bringing this to our attention. It has been something that has recently come to our attention. I think that the staff have a bit of an update, perhaps even this evening, for some of the things that we've already engaged in, because this has come to light recently. There's a large proliferation of needles that are coming into our society from multiple sources, and that's just disappointing that's coming into our community. And I think it speaks to a larger problem or a larger issue that even in our community, and we have to be careful, because there's the stereotypical drug user model has changed, and in the sense that some people are caught up into it that never dreamed of classifying themselves or imagining that they would be drug users, but with the kind of the OxyContin situation, and there's well-meaning people who are getting caught up with it. Some of them are in our own community, and they're desperately trying to do the right thing, and we should make it available that they can basically dispose of this in a safe manner, but also have opportunities for them to reach some of our social services and seek help. As challenging, or as again, this whole idea of breaking down barriers and stigma and attached with that, and just getting the help that they need. So thank you for bringing that forward. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Councillor Trombetta?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Bowden, for your presentation. It does bring to light that we are in a small community, and you don't expect to see these kind of things in small West Lincoln, but it is out there. And working in one of the bigger municipalities for the region, we see them everywhere, and you see a lot of these disposal containers. I've noticed them. There are a lot in Tim Hortons now. They're in a lot of places throughout that municipality. Just a question through you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if it goes to the CAO or to the director, because it's facilities or what, either or, if you don't mind me directing my question maybe to both of yous. You know, we have nothing, obviously, I would not imagine anything at our recreation site, but there's nothing in any of our, let's say, something out at Leisureplex against the wall or something like that. There's none of those containers, Mr. DePaul or Madam CAO, whoever wants to answer that first.
Okay, through the chair to Councillor Trombetta, currently at our facilities, we don't have any of those things. We do have a policy in place where if staff do find needles, there's a prescriptive process on how they go and collect them, but we don't have any boxes at our facilities now, but it's something we definitely need to discuss and look into.
Yeah, hopefully we can maybe, sorry, Madam CAO, if you want to add to that, sorry, I started fan up there.
Thank you through Chair to Councillor Trombetta. Further to Director DePaulo, we have been looking at this, and we've been talking about it quite significantly at our senior management team because of the issue that is being brought to our attention. And I'm really glad that you raised the issue of evidence-based findings, because right now we're sort of dealing with hearsay. And what we have been told to do is really track down where the usage is happening, because you need to bring the containers to that area. If you put it at the municipal office, they aren't going to come and deposit a needle at the municipal office. So we've been in consultations with the region, we've been in consultations with the medical clinic, and I put a call out to my CAO. It's across the region, and there hasn't been a whole lot of leadership, and I think some of it's coming from some social services groups that I'm not yet aware of, so I'm continuing to work on that. And I know that as well, our CEO of the library, it's a big discussion within the library world as well, because it's another community gathering place. So we aren't ready to land this yet, but I think we'd like to be able to figure out a good way to respond. I certainly had a lot of experience with this when I was in Oshawa, but we had a really known park, and it was a really successful program to put a sharps container there. And the John Howard Society assisted, and they did the collection regularly, and there was a lot of use, and a lot of people were quite satisfied because you took the product out of the ground and out of the trees, put them in the right place, and the people that were using them felt better about disposing them safely.
Thank you for that, Madam CAO. Appreciate those comments. Yeah, we also have a park that we're also developing now in the core as well, right? So yeah, if we can look at all the avenues and what's the best possible facility for this municipality, I think that would be great, and hopefully we have a solution coming in the coming future. So appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Director.
Thank you. Councillor Riley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, thank you, Nicholas, for making the presentation there. I really do appreciate it. I think it's important that we're, like our Madam CAO mentioned, about having that public input and having not just hearsay, but actually hearing from people who can share those stories. We can track where they actually are happening. Obviously, I think considering how this stuff has come to light, they seem to be, from my general assessment, public playgrounds, and where the small children are. So then I think it's not so much a question to you, but just for sake of conversation, is I almost wonder if it's worth looking into how to. Everything's going to be based on education, right? So it's kind of recognizing the problem and then knowing what to do when you're in that situation. And I think it's important that families across the community talk to their children to help educate them in what to do and what not to do. But I kind of wonder if we could maybe we can make a better effort at locating some of the more popular public areas and get some signage up to some degree, so that kids are at least aware of it. Because I think sometimes, when I first brought this, I think it was not even a couple months ago, about my son being one of the ones that had found one on the schoolyard. Thankfully, I chatted with my kid beforehand, but not everybody has a chance or think that's going to happen. And in the end, the kids actually grabbed it, not my son, but other children that were with him, not knowing what could be in it, what wasn't in it. However it got there, we're not going to be able to track it. I know there's concerns like, oh, well, we put a box up at the front of the office here, and no one's going to use it because they're on the other side of town. But maybe a conversation took place when mom and dad came in to pay the property tax, and they brought in little Joey, and he's like, oh, what's that? You don't know what the benefits of that could be as well, indirectly. So maybe not so much putting the box there, but making the information a little bit more accessible and how we can manage that. So I would love to see something in motion, maybe sooner than later, as far as public signage goes. And then even, again, just kind of expressing, I think, the sharp boxes kind of do that in an indirect way if we can get a few of those in the community. And I think I guess it's not at our West Lincoln Community Center, but I think that's got to be a must. I don't know how it couldn't, but again, we'll leave that with staff to figure out. But more importantly, a question I have for you, Nicholas. So you mentioned, and so through you, Mr. Chair, to Nicholas there, if you mentioned something about, you threw a stat out there, so you said proven fact that sites that use disposal, about 108% increase in Ottawa. Now, is that 108% increase in the sense of how they were being disposed? They were just being recklessly disposed, so because the boxes had just, they found that the disposal of needles being found had gone down 108%, so that's how they came to that number, or what exactly had actually increased the 108% is what I'm trying to understand.
So in 2011, they implemented a safe disposal program, which essentially didn't work too well. But then through deliberation and through the last few years, when they implemented again, put boxes in more usable spaces, then they saw the increase of
The
108%.
boxes.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
In the
okay.
boxes, yes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I heard that correctly.
Yes. They had other ways of collecting the needles, but they didn't count that in
Didn't back that
boxes.
originally?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. No, I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much, Nicholas. I really do appreciate you taking the time to explain that.
Okay, anybody else? Councillor Gannon.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering, Mr. DiPaolo, what staff do now if they do come across those things, and how available Sharps boxes are. You know, I'm wondering whether there should be one even for staff who come across the odd ones in the park where they're cleaning or when they're cutting or whatever, if there's a place for them actually to safely get rid of those, and how readily available Sharps boxes are and how costly they are, I suppose.
Okay, through the chair to Councillor Gannon. Whenever our staff are aware that there's needles, they bring out, we have our operations department would go out, or our rec department go out and just collect the needles in whatever boxes we have on. I'm not sure how many we have. And then they bring it to a local pharmacy, and then the pharmacy disposes of them
Okay,
properly.
it goes to the pharmacy. That's what I wondered. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Bowden. I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, request to address items on the agenda, but there is nobody in the gallery at this time, so we'll move forward to consent agenda items. Note all items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial and can be approved by one resolution. There will be no separate discussion. There is only one item unless a council member requests it, in which case the item will be removed from the consent resolution and considered immediately following adoption of the remaining consent agenda items. A, item A46-19, Information Report WLFD-11-19, Monthly Update, May 2019. Recommendation that the Administration Finance Fire Committee hereby approve the following consent agenda item, and there is only one, item 1B, and here is by received for information. Pardon? You want to pull it?
I think it's the chair. I think it's the chair. It's the space. Carry on, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it's hereby received for information except items which is not pulled. Okay, moving to seconder, please. Councilor Riley and Councilor Trombetta, any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Communications, there are no communications tonight, so I guess we're not talking to each other, I don't know. Staff reports, item A47-19, amendment to budget, Treasurer, Director, and Finance, Donna DePolifis. Re-recommendation report, RFD-T-14-19, May 2019 budget status report, amendment to budget. Recommendation 1, that report RFD-T-14-19 regarding the May 2019 budget status report amendment to budget be received for information. And 2, that a budget amendment be approved of $806,500 for the Industrial Park Water Main Project to be funded by development charges of $78,000 and a transfer from the Industrial Park Reserve of $728,500 with the Industrial Park Reserve reimbursement as future development charges are collected. A mover and a seconder for this, please. Councilor Trevena and Mr. Mayor, any questions from members of committee regarding this? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Other business, item A48-19, CAO Beverly Hendry, reemployment professional accomplishments. And number 1, Elsie Curry, Deputy Clerk, AMCTO Municipal Administration Program, MAP. And Madam CAO, would you like to comment on this?
Congratulations to our Deputy Clerk, Elsa Curry, who has completed the third step of the MAP program from the AMCTO, which is the Association of Municipal Clerks Treasurers of Ontario, and that's the third step of the Municipal Administration Program. So well done, Elsa.
Wow, very good. Any comments? No? Item A49-19, members of committee, verbal updates from members of boards and committees if required. Are there any? Seeing none, A50-19, members of committee, other business items of an informative nature. Mr. Mayor.
Congratulations, Raptors. That's it.
Yeah, did you hear what? Yeah, okay. There's not too many in Nathan. Okay, there are not too many in Nathan Phillips Square right now. Anyways, anybody else? Okay, I have a number of items. One, if I may proceed to the Director of Public Works. 2 months ago, we had a presentation by Carolyn Rael and Frank Tassoni with regards to the Niagara Region Transportation Service presentation, rehabilitation improvements with regards to what was going on in the township of West Lincoln. And it was announced at that time that the roundabouts, at least at this point, were canceled, and there was $7.5 million available. And I suggested that we look at York Road all the way to the end of West Lincoln Township line, which goes to Empire's Corners. And Mr. Tazzone indicated that he would get back to the Director of Public Works for the Township of West Lincoln to follow up to see if there's a possibility that could be considered, or is it even considered now? Did he get back to you, sir?
Through the chair, he did not get back to me, but I do know that the roundabouts are not canceled. The project was, the tender was delayed and it's going back out, so the region's intention is to construct those roundabouts this year, or at least tender them this year. They'll be constructed next year.
But Mr. Tazzoni did not get a hold of you?
No,
At
he
least
didn't, but
see
through
what-
his staff, I was advised that they're not removing or canceling the roundabout projects.
All right, but there was a kind of a two-phase, like there was money left, but I still wanted to know if there was a chance that they could consider it, but he did not even call you back.
I heard through his staff that they're not canceling the roundabouts, but
Yeah, so-
I didn't talk to him personally, correct?
All right, so what you're saying is he did not reply to the request of the chairman of administration, and he came here to give this and did not follow up. Thank you, that's the region. Number two, there is an article in the News Now on Thursday, June the 13th, that I am sure if other councilors read this would create some interest. This is with regards to the District School Board of Niagara regarding the mega schools and some concerns that residents had with regards to the positioning of the schools and all the rest of this stuff. And if I may read the last paragraph, Helen McGregor is the Superintendent of Curriculum and Student Achievement for the schools. McGregor said that while the grow-ups are under investigation, federal and municipal jurisdiction, because one person asked, they were concerned about their children being close to a grow-up. And she answered, the DSBN, which is the District School Board of Niagara, is working closely with the Ministry of Health, along with architects and engineers, to minimize liabilities. So we have people coming here saying, we're trying to contact the Ministry of Health. It stinks, it smells, they're not doing anything, and yet DSBN is working closely with the Ministry of Health to make sure there's nothing close to the schools. That doesn't add up to me. Like, how can they be working close? How can they get the relationship with the ministry, and yet anybody in the 12 municipalities of the region of Niagara that tries to call the Ministry of Health to get something done about the foul odor is not even getting their phone calls returned, and yet these people have a one-on-one relationship. I don't know. This doesn't make any sense to me. Is it possible that somebody from the township can get a hold of the DSBN, find out what the special phone number is with the Ministry of Health that no one seems to have, and maybe we can carry on a conversation so that the air quality in the Niagara region can be improved because we finally got a hotline to the Ministry of Health? Like, this is, how could you be working close to something when somebody doesn't even return the calls for all the municipalities of Niagara? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. I'm hoping that we can find out something about this, because it is an issue that's getting worse, and we need to get the Ministry of Health involved. So would it, Mr. Mayor, would it be possible to have some communications with the district school board to find out where their contacts are, to see if we can do something?
You know, my knee-jerk response is that's a typical, and you've heard them before, I know you're not that naive, it's a political response. But I will get in touch with our trustee, Mr. Newton, and see if he's got that number.
Yeah, it seems that some people can contact the Ministry of Health, and the rest of us can't get past stage one. And I agree with you. I thought it was very political too, but by the same token, it is important, and it needs to be addressed, not only for the positioning of this school and everything around it, but the rest of the whole region of Niagara and what everybody else is being surrounded by. So anyways, the next one I got is kind of I have to ask this question. I've gone through Wellingport a number of times in the last month and a half. And again, Friday afternoon at 3:30, I drove by the library in Wellingport. And the sign on it says closed. And it's a Friday, and it's on an afternoon, and I'm thinking, we spent all this money on a library, and it's Monday to Friday in the afternoon, and the library is closed. Is that, and this has happened more than once, but I just kind of fluffed it off. But this was the third time. In the middle of the afternoon, I thought, this is strange, all this money in this building, and the building's closed in broad daylight. Can somebody update me as, why is this closed during what I would consider normal hours? Even 9 to 5 is a normal hour, but maybe Vanessa?
Sure, Mr. Chair. So, as you know, staffing has been tight at the libraries, and we did receive an increase this year to increase staffing. It was a slight increase, though, and a lot of it was mitigated by the fact that we had a staff person retiring at Wellandport Library. So, conventionally, Wellandport has always been closed on Fridays, and it's usually open Wednesday evenings. The only times during the day when it's open are Wednesdays, all during the day, and Saturdays during the day. So we found out through just usage at Wellandport that the best usage of staff hours is to have them at Smithville and Caisterville. And because Wellandport is used most heavily in the evenings, it's a small community, it's mostly used by families, and during the day, there's just not a lot of use in the afternoon. Most of the use happens in the evenings. So we do have it opened one afternoon during the week for any families that want to use it during the day, and then, of course, all day Saturdays for anyone that wants to use it.
Are they open in the evenings then? If you
Yes.
found every evening?
Yes, every evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just seemed odd to me, because I know they've been pushing for this for the longest time, and you put the effort in also to get the grants, that we had enough money, and here everybody's excited about this library. I drive by in the middle of the day and it's closed, and that just done that up to my brain of logic. Sorry.
So, Mr. Chair, I mean, another reason, like I said, is that if we can afford to have have the hours for a staff person, it makes more sense for us to be able to have those hours and be open, say, at Smithville or Caisterville, where during the day, for some reason, just based on the population, it's more heavily used, be open there, and to be able to serve 50, 60, 100 people, then be open at Wellandport. And sometimes even during the day, it would not be that heavily used during the day. So we're trying to, with the hours, have staff available at the library when it's most heavily used. And of course, if population changes at any of our branches, we're always willing to, with the library board, re-examine the hours that we're open.
Okay, I just like to, I was hoping we could see it open a lot more, because if we've gone through all this expense, it seems foolish to spend all this money and then only have it open occasionally. It just doesn't, and I know the emphasis was for so many years, and there was a lot of excitement about getting it done, and then now to see that it's not open all the time kind of diffuses that enthusiasm a bit. Councillor Cody?
As a resident of Wellandport, and Ms. Holm can probably confirm this, but we're in a unique situation in that we have to leave Wellandport for absolutely everything. So I think you would find a high percentage of people in Wellandport would actually patronize the Smithville Library because they're probably coming to Smithville for grocery shopping and Tim Hortons and lunch and whatever else they might need. I think you'd even probably find many of them would regularly patron the Fenwick Library. I wouldn't be surprised because we are right on that border where we often go to Welland as well. So we, I think, and Ms. Holm, maybe you could, but I think there's probably a large percentage of Wellandport individuals who come here to Smithville and use the library here, and because they're coming here anyway.
I know, but that wasn't the logic used to support building the library, or it wouldn't have been built. So, obviously, there must have been a need in Wellandport, or they wouldn't have gone through all this to build the library in Wellandport, knowing that people weren't going to go to it anyways and go to Smithville. Seems kind of odd that they would still go ahead with the library. But I know what you're saying.
Like, can I say something?
Councillor Riley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think what I'm hearing here too, and I guess you can disagree with me if you like, but it sounds like our library CEO is actually being used with the funds that she actually has access to. It sounds like she's being fiscally responsible in managing the facility the best way she sees fit with the funds she has. So unless we want to make a motion to give her more funding, I feel like, she's kind of handcuffed. So you can't, force her, I think you've said before, squeeze water out of a rock. So I think if anything, I applaud her, Vanessa, for the work that she's doing and continues to do and makes work with what funds she actually has available. Because I remember with my first budget here, we were all talking about, not wanting to give an inch on the West Lincoln Community Center for the funding they needed to stay open longer in much bigger areas. So again, I don't think it's, you should fault her for the limited resources she has.
No,
I just want to make sure that's clear.
I want to make it clear that this is not me finding fault with Vanessa in any way, shape, or form. It's just, I find it difficult in a brand-new building that had a lot of research and a lot of time and a lot of justification in the past to get something we're all excited about, and you go buy the thing you're excited about, and it's closed in broad daylight. It just seemed weird to me, that's all. But, and we did put money in for additional, so, it was in the budget, so it's not as if it wasn't, so I'm hoping that. So anyways.
You seldom look this direction, so I'll just, I also had pulled out some library stats simply because I know that when there's a whole big agenda to read, there often are not a lot of library stats that are read. So the last one we have in our agenda package for the Public Works meeting and library included there is from March. But there were in total 7,815 library uses. 538 of those were computer uses. 5,417 were book circulations, but I think most important, there were 506 program attendees. And I think that what doesn't show when you're just driving by when the library is closed is that there are regular programs going on in all of the libraries that bring in huge numbers of adults and children, sometimes adults only, sometimes mixed, and sometimes kids only. But certainly it's a library system, and the library board and the library staff are looking at the best use of all of those. And if you take the time to look at least, if you don't want to read the whole library minutes, which can be quite boring, I will say, quite often, the most important part is always the CEO's report, because that really tells you what's going on in the libraries. It tells you what the programs are that are being run during that month and how many people are attending, how many e-books are being used, how many regular books are being circulated. So, thank you.
Thank you. The next thing I got through to Mr. Mayor, is there anything dealing with security of the new facility when it's not open? I've received some calls from people in Ward 3 with regards to parties and stuff that are going on near the skate park and all this stuff, and they wanted to know if there's anything the town can do so that can minimize that, so that they're not up in the night listening to a bunch of howling and screaming.
So I'm probably not the exact person to provide an answer that you're looking for, but I am aware that there are, at township staff monitors all complaints, potholes and speeding and anything that comes in the office is all logged. And just, in the, since the facility has been kind of coming of full usage, there are some concerns, and they're broad. They're a wide variety of concerns. and staff is dealing with it as best as they can. We're kind of coming up with a working plan to deal with the different types of concerns. And they range from, as you say, late night parties, lighting, sound, noise, and so each one of them, of course, is a unique solution. But all I can say at this point, I'm not necessarily the go-to guy. I'm aware of them, and we're dealing with them at staff. And so I probably would defer to the CAO for
One thing I was thinking of is the thing of saying that this area has got cameras and it's being videotaped. I think that, especially nowadays when that's very popular and available, is a deterrent to ones, because they know if they take the party one step farther and maybe start to do damage or something, that everything's on camera. It's just something to help the neighborhood so that it doesn't turn into a party zone. Madam CAO, you've got any comments in regards to this?
Thank you. I have been in touch with a couple of residents, and again, we're looking for some evidence on this, and we've asked that when people want to make a complaint, if they would let the office know, then we'd have an idea about patterns, if it's on a Saturday night or a Friday night, or if it's the same group of people. So again, we would really, and speaking with the community, they understand that as well. And I provided them with the phone number directly so that they can phone that information in. And we will continue to monitor and do what we can do.
Okay, I appreciate that. I mentioned that I would mention it, so I appreciate it. The last thing I got is, Councilor Trombetta, go ahead. No, it's okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, this is the last one. Sorry for the list, but they just seem to mount right now. The last one deals with garbage. And this is not urban's fault, rural's fault, but what it is I do a walk every day with my dog. We do 2 kilometers, the same road all the time. And in the last 6 weeks, my dog likes to pick up the cans and take them home. We have 42 beer cans, and we do the same walk every day. It's almost like we've got an Alcoholics Haven in Caister Center. I don't know. Tim cups are everywhere out there. They go into town to Tim's, they go into town to get their beer. And now last week, the mayor mentioned about the new business that was in town. And 2 days later, I have the A&W. So I know they're in town. I just don't know why everything in town ends up in the ditches out in the country. I've even got the bill, I've got the price, I got what the order. This was like 2 days later, I'm walking along and saying, I don't believe this. So I don't know, I was the one who pushed about 10 or 15 years ago for the $500 fine for littering, but I don't think any police have ever charged. But I don't know what we can do. The littering is increasing. And we're trying to be clean out there. There's even somebody the other day I passed had a 4-wheel drive John Deere little go-kart. And she actually had a long stick with a hook on it. And she was going along, because now the cans are worth money and stuff, she's actually going along clean the ditches. There's another gentleman down the road who unfortunately is paralyzed. He's in a wheelchair. He goes along the side of the road and he's got the same thing. But I mean, it's that much garbage that these people, I don't know how to get around it, but it's not what I'd like to see the direction the township, somehow, I don't know how we can enforce that. Why can't you leave it in the car till you get home and put it in the recycle bin? Why have you got to throw it out the window? Councilor Riley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great question, I think. Good question put out there. I also question whether it's necessarily coming from the source, if it's coming off the back of a garbage truck. It could come from many things. But I will say, because you brought A&W, is if anybody who's actually gone to A&W will know, in order to take an order, they ask you at the very end what your name is. Like I say, the name on here says Julie. So if you want to track down who dropped this off, if you look closely, it actually has the name of the individual. So if anything, A&W is helping you police your own community and who's responsible for polluting. I just thought I'd point that out to you.
I didn't even look at that. I just thought, I even got the bill. I can't believe I got the whole package.
Right at the bottom. So
Yeah,
anyways,
it's just sad, because I really love to see our town look beautiful, and it just seems, it's unbelievable. Every time we get somebody new in town, we find out in the country for the wrong reason. Anyways, moving on, there are no confidentials tonight, and this meeting is now adjourned at 7:10 p.m. Thank you for putting up with me.